Okay, hold on. All right, here we go on a Sunday morning in Las Vegas. Just after 8 o'clock, I'm Brian Feldman, and this is Outta Line. If you're listening for the first time, we are here live, same time every week on Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM and 1340 AM, flagship of the Vegas Golden Knights. We are doing the show from Kickers Gaming and Sports Bar just down the road from Cashman Center, and I should say Cashman Field. The address is 931 North Las Vegas Boulevard. Kickers will be our home and has been for a while because due to COVID-19 protocol, all shows have been kicked out of the Fox Sports Residential Bancorp studio, and we've been told that that is until further notice. So if you are up and mobile, come on down and join us. We'll hook you up with some free donuts, free orange juice, and Kickers is offering mimosa and Bloody Mary specials during the show. Today starts a new era for the show, as it'll be the first show in a long time without former UNLV quarterback Caleb Herring sitting to my left on your radio dial as the co-host. Caleb's schedule at his main gig changed, and at least for the foreseeable future, he will not be here. So stepping in for Caleb is our longtime intern and social media director, Spencer the Wiz.
Nobody beats the Wiz. Nobody beats the Wiz.
I love the theme song, and I love the graphics, and I guess I got to fill in for Caleb. That wasn't too bad, was it?
No, not at all. It's really kind of a mainstay now. It's like very much a part of the show, I feel like.
It is, and I've been practicing on my Friday show, so I would be ready to take over for Caleb in my announcement of the Wiz, if ever that need be the case, and it is now. So there you go. Hey, listen, not only is he the only intern in the world with his own theme music, but the Wiz now has his own sports talk show. It's called Delivering Sports, and that is Friday nights at 7 o'clock on KSHP, which is 1400 AM on your radio dial. I do a show right before that called Rent It, Buy It, Refi It. Check us out. I'm on at 6. The Wiz is on at 7. Some good stuff on the radio. And again, that's over at 1400 on KSHP. Also part of the show and social distancing back in the Fox Sports Residential Bancorp studio, producer and future WWE star Dino DeMond, known around the Las Vegas radio group or radio network, and of course known around Lotus Broadcasting as DeMond Cotton. But the show is also streaming on the LV Sports Network, and you can watch the show on Facebook Live. The page is called Outta Line. That's OUTTALINE. Also on our personal pages as well, so check it out. You can also follow the show on Instagram and Twitter. It's at Outta Line Fox LV. One more time, that's at Outta Line Fox LV. And since we are live, your calls and questions are welcome. The Fox Sports Residential Makeup studio line is 702-876-1340.
Hi, this is Bubby, and it's time for What's on Tap.
Yeah, What's on Tap is brought to you by title sponsor Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. If you need to purchase a home or refinance the home you currently own, give Residential Bancorp a call. Check them out online, residentialbancorp.com, and they will handle all your home financing needs. Once again, Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. On tap, well, first we're going to talk a little bit about this great bar we're at, which we'll do in a second. Kickers Gaming and Sports Bar, the newest standalone facility in downtown Las Vegas. We're going to tell you about that. Nightcap tonight with the Vegas Golden Knights. Man, they got to play in their first ever Winter Classic. Results not great. Interesting up there in Reno. But one cool fact about the Winter Classic that we'll fill you in at during Nightcap. You definitely want to check that out. Also, the Running Rebs, as you know, on the road right now. They did get a win over San Jose State on Friday after like 2 or 3 straight losses. But believe it or not, the team's got a chance to finish the season over 500, both in the conference and their overall schedule. How real is that? How much is a house of cards? We'll talk about that as well. Also, stick around. The bad boy of the Golden State Warriors. a favorite of a lot of people, annoying to a lot of others, but the Golden State Warriors wouldn't be the Golden State Warriors without him. But some more incidents last night on the hardwood. We'll talk about that. And also do want to mention the Australian Open, some historical stuff going on there. The Joker just keeps on finding ways to win. He does not lose in the finals. If you don't know who the Joker is, you will a little bit later on in the show when we talk about the Australian Open. Also another great young champion. She keeps winning too on the women's side, and we'll talk about her and that in a bit. And then, of course, in the finale, a lot of stuff bantering about the NBA is winding down, Spencer. NFL, Tampa Bay, man, really, are we going to see the same Bucks team? Brady will be there next year, but all kinds of free agents, especially in the receiving core. And that could change the outlook of the current Super Bowl champion. So we'll talk about all that as well. Once again, this is Outta Line. That is on tap, and it is brought to you by our title sponsor, once again, Residential Bank Corp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. And Spencer, before we get into the nightcap and what's on tap, how about a Kicker Sports Bar? Been our home now for the better part of the last couple of months, and it has been pretty cool. I've enjoyed myself.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. It's very nice because when you go in here, there's lots of different sports going on at one time, right? You got like cornhole and soccer and tennis, and most places you kind of have to choose, right? There's like maybe 3 or 4 TVs around you at any given time, and you got to pick and choose. But when you come here, obviously, there's no need to have a choice. You can sit wherever you want. I'm sure they can change the channels too if you're in here. And yeah, it's a great game watching experience and great drink specials too, obviously.
Plus a real friendly Jennifer Metzger and Dylan Reese, just great owners. They really put their heart and soul into this place. You've got 17 televisions around the bar, 15 gaming machines, and I'll tell you, they have the game sound. Like the big game sound is always on during football season. It's a Packers bar. As you probably heard the commercials, during every Packers game, they're raffling off jerseys, memorabilia. It is really a great place. And one of the coolest things about Kickers is they have every pay-per-view fight here. You got to reserve it, but it doesn't cost you to get in. Get here early. It is a quaint facility, a very nice, very friendly, great, as you can see behind me, Art Deco. We don't have the backdrop of Fox up today, but we're going to figure that out soon. But the cool thing is you can check out the graffiti. The place is tremendous. It really is. They've got the new golf machines over here. As Spencer said, they've got shuffleboard, just all kinds of great stuff. They got a photo boom booth in the kick as well. You can go take some pictures while you're here, but really a cool place. And again, very few unique standalone facilities in Las Vegas. And this is one downtown, and a really kind of old iconic downtown has really reinvented itself again. Come on down and check the place out again. 931 North Las Vegas Boulevard, right at Washington in old downtown Las Vegas, right down the road from Cashman Field and from, of course, the Neon Boneyard that's right up there too. Some great signs. But again, they have social tonight. It's Social Game Sundays, where they have drink specials, raffles, and from 8 to 10 tonight, they are having they're going to be having their and I had it right over here. Let me get that over here again to put that out to 8 to 10 tonight. It is going to be Pictionary Air. So check this out. They do a great job with this here at the bar. I really enjoy it. Come on in. They've got drink specials, raffle prizes such as gift cards, bar tabs you'll get taken care of, some merchandise, a lot of stuff. So make sure you come on down and check that out. And also right now at Kickers, they are taking reservations for the March 6th UFC fight. You don't want to miss that. Get here early, beat the rush. They've opened up the full bar now. They've gotten full capacity, but still that is not a ton of people. So you better get down early and make your reservations if you want to check that out. Great place to check out the fight, any of the games. You want to come and see the Golden Knight games. As you heard during the commercials, during every Golden Knight game, they have shot and drink specials. And every time the Golden Knights score, you get like a free shot. I mean, it's pretty cool. Not many places do that. And again, if you haven't heard the commercials, they really pay it forward. If you're any out there, public worker, for the heroes right now, they're taking care of you, man. The veterans, I should say. Veterans, man, 50% off your tab all day, every day at Kickers. No place does that. That's paying it forward. All right, man, let's get on to Nightcap. Let's talk about
hockey players, as you know, are warriors. They don't give up. They come to play every game.
It's time for Nightcap, a cupful of the Vegas Golden Knights. From highlights to interviews to special events, the puck starts here.
yesterday afternoon in Reno when they had the Winter Classic. A great matchup, too, between the Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche, two of the better teams, two of actually the best teams in the Western Conference right now. It seems like the Colorado Avalanche kind of have Vegas's number. They've now, I think, beaten them in 3 straight games, is it? Something like the 2 straight games. But and then they won. The Golden Knights beat them 1-0, and then Colorado's won back-to-back games at 3-2 scores. Yesterday, really strange. The game starts in Reno in the afternoon. It is a beautiful day. And when something looks too good to be true, it usually is. And what happens is the sun up there, I mean, the altitude's high. The sun really bakes you. I've skied up in Lake Tahoe. I don't know if you guys have, but it does beat down on you a little bit. You know, you end up like sunburned at the end of the day. If you're not paying attention, you don't put on sunscreen. Well, the sun did burn the ice. It softened it up. A lot of guys were tripping and falling. Colorado did get an early goal, but they deemed it too dangerous to play, which at that level, like normally if you're not at the skill set of an NHL player, you can probably play on choppy ice. You're not going to hurt yourself a great deal. But with the way those guys go at it, the immediate stops and starts, that is ankle and knee injuries waiting to happen, and you got to postpone the game. They did. They resumed at 9:00 last night. Ultimately, the Knights lost 3-2 in what was a really good game. Nathan MacKinnon, if you're not watching this guy is one of, I say underrated because he's just not talked about enough, but his skill set is amazing. He flies. If you didn't see the goal where he pretty much went end to end and broke the 1-1 tie at the time, you can see this guy's skill set. He had 3 points in last night's game, and that is the most points for a player in an outdoor game in NHL history. Now, the game hasn't been going on that long. There's only this year there's 2 because there's one today, one tonight again with Philadelphia and the Bruins. But, I mean, it's still nice. He had a goal and 2 assists. Spencer's laughing like 3 points. I mean, if it was 5 or 6 points. But my point is Nathan MacKinnon's a stud. And you really got to watch this guy. You've got to defend. You've got to keep your stick on the ice in front of him. And that's about what you can do. Some other studs in the NHL I'll talk about in a second. But the thing is, Spencer, about the outdoor game, you want to play in this game. Do you know why you want to play in the outdoor game? Do you have any clue why you want to play?
Because it's cool.
Well, the reason, I mean, it takes you back to a lot of these guys' youth where they probably grew up playing on lakes and outdoors, but that's not really the reason. The reason is because an outdoor game participant has made the Stanley Cup final in the same season each of the last 4 years. So one of the 2 participants would say, based on that, would say that they're going to the Stanley Cup. And, you know, you like statistics. That's won 4 straight seasons now. One of the 2 teams that has made it, that has played in the Winter Classic, made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. And both these teams, the funny thing is this year, both these teams, neither one of us, or I think anybody in the NHL, would be surprised if one of these 2 teams ended up in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Well, no, the reason I was laughing at you in the beginning is because I'm so sick of these stats. And I talked about it with Caleb a couple of weeks ago of like the first player on a Tuesday afternoon to score 3 points or – No, I'm serious. And now this too. I mean, I guess that the Winter Classic is always going to be between 2 good teams. They're not going to put some of the bottom feeders in the league in one of these special games because it takes a lot of preparation to go into it. So, of course, there's a higher chance that somebody in that game is going to go to the Stanley Cup. Now, is that a little serendipitous? Like, there's only usually 1 Winter Classic game as far as I know. So, yeah. But still, like, they're going to put the top premier. Like, the Lakers would be playing in this theoretical outdoor game if, you know, it existed in some capacity in the NBA.
But the thing is, in the past, you can't really predict that, Spencer, because the schedule is made up well before the season. You know, a team loses a couple players in free agency, a guy gets hurt in the preseason, all of a sudden a team that you thought was going to be really good isn't anymore. A couple years ago, the Red Wings played in the Winter Classic. Maybe they deserved to be in it based on their rich history, but the year they played in it the last time, they weren't that good of a team. So I think initially when they schedule it, they're hoping these 2 teams play the way they did the previous season, but there's no guarantee anybody can tank. So I know that they look at that, but I still think it's a pretty neat stat. And again, with MacKinnon, 3 points isn't a lot, but the Winter Classic's a different type of a game. And I really enjoy it. I think it is so great that they brought this into hockey. I just wish in the Winter Classic they started to do this, although neither one of these teams really could wear throwback jerseys because they haven't been around that long. Colorado longer than the Wings. But I like when you put classic teams, like maybe the Red Wings or the Maple Leafs, and you wear their old sweaters with the laced up tops. And that's what I think every Winter Classic game should be. But this year, of course, maybe we'll see that tonight with Boston and Philly, two older franchises, Boston being one of the original 8. Maybe we'll see those two teams wear the funky sweaters tonight. I don't know.
Yeah, and I actually did want to say one thing about McKinnon in that I don't think he'd be as successful on another team. Would he still be good? Of course he would. But that's one of the fastest teams in the NHL to me, in my books, the Colorado Avalanche. And he plays that fast. I mean, they were running circles around the Golden Knights yesterday. That was kind of the big takeaway. They never really had a chance. It looked like they had breakaways that ended in a split second because they caught up with them. It's actually pretty incredible. It's a pretty bad matchup for the Knights. Last year, I was really worried about them in the playoffs as well. Ended up, they didn't match up together or anything like that. But they're a serious contender no matter what their record ends up being, because matchups, as we know, matter in the playoffs, and seeding can matter even less. And without fans, the seeding really doesn't matter.
So you're right. And, the thing with Colorado, they are a very, very quick team. And they played really well in the neutral zone. They seem to control the zones they're supposed to control at the right times. But the main thing with Colorado is, like the Golden Knights, their last line of defense is as good as almost any team in the NHL. Philip Grubauer is a really good goalie. And, what's different about Philip Grubauer, although you're seeing this more and more, he is a big guy. And when you got a big giant man in the net, man, there's only so much space around him to get the puck past. A lot of times pucks inadvertently hit guys like Grubauer when he doesn't even make the save. Plus, he's a really good and skilled goaltender on top of it. The Colorado Avalanche, to me, really have a legitimate chance this year to move forward. From what I've seen him play. Now, I just saw him Tuesday night. I saw him play at T-Mobile Arena, and they are a fun hockey team to watch. They're pretty disciplined and they're good, but I still look at the Knights, and when they get it all together, Spencer, this is as skilled team cumulatively as any team in the league. Now, it's not like they have, you could say maybe Mark Stone, but it's not like they have this dynamic, standout superstar player. Petrangelo really has been a disappointment to this point in the season. I know he won't remain being a disappointment. When you're a really good player, you have slumps, and he started this year as one. I think he'll be fine as time goes on. But cumulatively, this is a team of a bunch of lower echelon stars, but tons of them. And that's what helps the Golden Knights be good, because from top to bottom, they are really a solid unit from one line to line 4, where other teams have great superstars. Like the Edmonton Oilers are a good team, but Connor McDavid makes them great when he's on the ice. And we see the same thing with Austin Matthews in Toronto. Two guys that can carry a franchise and score multiple points in a game. As a matter of fact, those guys both had over, I think, 4 and 5 points last night in their games. But the problem is it's not the well-rounded. When you get to lower lines, they're not as well-rounded as the Golden Knights are, and that's what makes the Golden Knights a better tier. Maybe not a player to the magnitude of a McDavid or the guys that I'm talking about. But you've got you've got guys on the Golden Knights that get it done. And Mark Stone, in his own right, is kind of a star, and he does score a lot of goals. But I love the Golden Knights from top to bottom compared to any team in the NHL. I think they match up well because of that.
That is true, but they do have a long way to go, in my opinion. The regular season's all fine and dandy. We've seen the Milwaukee Bucks for the past 2 seasons dominate the regular season, and the Knights to a certain extent are doing that as well. But they are going to need more out of Petrangelo. And I'm not saying he should be amazing right now. He's new to the team. I think he's co-captain, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. I forget who the captain situation is. But anyways, besides who's wearing a C on their jersey and who's not, he's got to find a way to put the puck in the back of the net more than he is now. Like, him playing opposite of Shea Theodore should be a goal scoring fest for him. He's actually playing a lot more defensively than I had originally imagined him to be. In my mind, I saw him as an offensive defenseman, very much similar to Shea Theodore. What ends up happening, and from what I'm seeing, is when the Knights make brushes, like if they get a quick steal and they end up going down the left-hand side, what he'll do is he'll actually hang behind the blue line. They did that a couple of games ago in Colorado. It was like in the first period, 6:48 left. I remember it. Jonathan Marchessault had a quick rush. He actually gotten through 2 defenders. Was quite lucky, but instead of him being available on that opposite ice pass, that diagonal opposite ice, he was playing defensively in case Colorado got it back. I think if he could just push up a little more, the Knights offensively would be a lot better. I also think when they're behind the net, instead of looking for the pass to shoot it inside where it's all crowded? Why not try to alleviate the pressure a little bit? Send the puck on the outside when you have having free control behind the net is like a very unique situation. When you have it, I think they need to take better advantage of it. And there's only one other thing that I think is worth talking about for the Golden Knights, or for me. He fooled me. We talked about it on my show, like at the beginning of the season. I'm talking about Max Pacioretty, of course. So I said he's having his best season in a Golden Knights uniform, and he is. But still, he's got to go, Brian, because he's taking shots away from Pietrangelo. That's for sure. This guy is 10th in the league in shot attempts with an average of 3 to 5 games less than the people above him. I'm looking at just the straight stats. Now, if he had played 3 of those 5 games, would he be the top 3 in scoring? Sure. His 13% scoring percentage, shot percentage this season is lowest in the top 20. Again, this is not helping the Golden Knights, obviously. He had a 2-game scoring streak prior to this, but before that, and if you want to talk about the beginning of the season, that 2-game goal scoring streak, nothing. Goose eggs. It drives me nuts. I thought he had changed, Brian. It turns out that the trade talks in the beginning of the season, what was really fueling him, not the desire to play better for the Golden Knights. If you want to tell me that he wasn't playing a little extra harder because his name was being thrown around the trade machine, then you're sadly mistaken. But that flame has definitely burned out, and he's right back to being the player that I thought he was last year.
Spencer, what I will tell you is, I'm not disagreeing that he takes a lot of shots, and some of them, are errant. Again, I still think you throw the puck at the net, and I think that Pacioretty does help the Golden Knights. I understand that you think he takes shots away from Pietrangelo, but it is his job to shoot the puck more than his Pietrangelo. And again, this is a 10-4-1 hockey team. It is one of the best teams in the NHL still, and I don't think dumping Pacioretty makes them any better. Depending on what you get, of course, things move around. And to say that if I don't think that he was trying harder because there were trade rumors, of course he was trying harder for himself. But Spencer, everyone does. That's a pro athlete. It's like you see guys go to other teams, and for the first 4 games they light it up because they want to show their other teammates there's something inside you they bring up. Then all of a sudden they go back to being who they were. We saw that with Brandon Perry, when he first came to the Knights. All of a sudden I'm watching, like, whoa, the guy's playing both ways. He never played defense in his life, and he started playing defense. Then he went right back to being Brandon Perry and hardly saw any time in the postseason. That's what happens. He's known as a goal scorer, but you got to play both ways. I like Matt Pacioretty, and also Max does play decent defensively. Not great, but he's definitely not a liability. And again, he does put the puck at the net. 13% might not be great, especially for a guy that is supposed to have soft hands and be able to maneuver the puck around. But I think Patches is still a guy that needs to be on this team. He's a senior veteran now, and somebody that seems to be really popular in the locker room with the players. And I think that goes a long way as well. I don't see him playing for himself. I see him playing for the team. Yes, should he take some more, maybe take a look and pass the puck once in a while instead of just putting. Possibly, but that's his game, is throwing the puck at the net. And I think any team that picks him up will expect that from him. Expect a high shot percentage, maybe not a high goal percentage, but still a high shot percentage. That's who Max Pacioretty is. Is there guys that can replace him? Of course, Spencer. Maybe that'll happen in time. Maybe it'll happen before the season's out if they need to make a change. But I don't think Pacioretty hurts this team at all. And I really don't think it's him that's taking shots away from Pietrangelo. I think, Alex needs to really find a way to get the puck more and take it into the net. I do like the way he is playing defense, but he's known as an offensive defenseman, but he's also a very, very solid defenseman, especially in the Golden Knights and, down in their end. So, going forward, the team gets ready now. I think they've got Colorado tomorrow. Is it today or no? Tomorrow night at 6:00. They're at Colorado, and they come back to T-Mobile Arena, I think, next week. I think they're out for a little bit. But again, I think the Golden Knights, the biggest thing is, making sure that both Leonard and Fleury are healthy. We've seen Marc-Andre playing well. He played well yesterday outdoors with some chippy ice, made a couple of key saves early on when the ice was really bad. And then again at night, he gets the job done. But Robin Leonard is going to have to be here for this team to make a run. And I'm not saying Robin Leonard is great. Maybe he is slightly overrated. When I say slightly overrated, people said he's a top 10 goaltender. I don't think that's that far-fetched. There's only, 30 some odd teams in the league. So top 10 is not like great. You're in the upper, the top third. But him and Fleury together put them in the top 2 or 3 teams goaltender combination wise in the National Hockey League. And I think going forward, again, your last line of defense is goaltenders. And there is no sport of the four majors that one player can make more of a difference than the goaltender in the NHL. And we've seen it time and time again in the playoffs and NHL history. So Leonard and Marc-Andre Fleury, two key integral parts. And right now, Fleury's kind of being forced to play every game. That is going to start hurting the Knights. As Fleury gets up there, I think that Fleury does need his breathers. He'll want to play every day, and God bless him. I love him for that, but he does need those spells. And, when Leonard comes back, I think they'll get that rotation going again. But eventually, towards the playoffs, I don't think you can rotate goaltenders any more than you can rotate quarterbacks in major professional sports playoffs. I think you got to have one guy you got to lean on. And hopefully by the end of the season, Leonard will be back, and who's ever playing the best will get the nod the majority of the playoffs. The Knights tried to do like 2 games for Leonard, 1 game for Fleury last year in the playoffs. How did that work out for them? They did make it to the Western Conference Finals. That's where it all ended. I really think you need one guy in between the pipes throughout the playoffs. Maybe 1 game here or there, you spell them, but for the most part, it's got to be one guy.
I think I may have just been muted myself. So I think that, like I was saying, I think Fleury will end up being the starter come playoff time, or if they are going to do this rotation, it's going to be 2 games Fleury and then 1 game Robin Leonard. He's playing that well. Going into last night's game, I'm sure he doesn't hold that title anymore, but he was allowing the least amount of goals per game in the league. For players who are goalies who have played at least, I think, 9 games. The other ones, they played like 2 or 3 games, so I didn't add them to the list. So they will need him in his veteran leadership, although, in my opinion, it all falls on Pietrangelo. I know we just kind of talked about that, but the Knights last year have lost every single playoff series because someone with a little bit of extra juice has stepped up in the big moments, and the Knights just haven't had that. It's supposed to be Pacioretty. It was supposed to be Mark Stone more specifically last year, but of course, he was nowhere to be found, and Pacioretty just made the team worse overall. Altogether. So him adding this extra piece, I mean, they spend all the rest of their cap space on him. We'll see. But the Knights have to get better on the power play, too. I mean, how many 5-on-3s have they had this season, and even just in the past 2 seasons, where they don't get any quality shots on goal? I mean, we went into the season talking about how elite it would be with Pietrangelo and Shea Theodore on the power play, potentially, and it has not produced at all. Now, given they have played Colorado, the second best power play killing team in the league, but still, you're going to have to score against some of the best power play defenses in the league in the playoffs too. We'll see how they end up doing. It's still early in the season, in my opinion. I know this is a shortened season, but there's a lot of hockey left to play, and we'll see how the Golden Knights can end up responding through all of this. But I have faith in them. We'll just see. But Pietrangelo, I will have my eyes squarely on for a very long time.
Have to. I mean, I think everyone will, and I think, like I said, don't worry about Pietrangelo. He will be there when it's all said and done. This is one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League. It was a huge get for the Golden Knights, and he will pan out. Don't give up on him. Knights hope to turn things around again. They are. I think they've lost 3 of their last 5 games, so that's unique for them. When they've got an overall record, they've lost 4 total, and 3 of the last have come in the last 5. But hopefully, turn it around. They're at Colorado tomorrow, and then this week Thursday, they're at San Jose, and then they're in Anaheim on Saturday, and then next week. They'll return March 1st. They got 2 games against the Minnesota Wild, which should be kind of fun, but really interesting. And we're going to see as the season pans out. We talked about the 2 best players in the league, and I keep talking about how their supporting cast isn't as good as the Golden Knights. But yet, if you look at Toronto and Edmonton, they're number 1 and 2 in the North Division. So they're both teams to be reckoned with. But again, if you take Connor McDavid off the Edmonton Oilers, I can't imagine how different of a team that would be. And same thing with Toronto. If you take Austin Matthews off that team, how different are the Maple Leafs? Where the Golden Knights, you could probably remove Mark Stone, who I would say people would probably say he's their best offensive player, and you probably continue. The record doesn't change that much to me. Even though I think Mark Stone is a vital and integral part of this team, it doesn't change it much. Let's move on. Let's talk about another local team on the collegiate level. The UNLV winding down their season, Spencer. They've got 3 games left to play. They're coming off of an expected win at San Jose State. San Jose State, an absolute garbage team this year. They win by 16 in that one. They play San Jose State again up there today at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Then they wrap up their season. We'll both be there on Wednesday night to see him play Fresno before I get out of town. I won't get to see him on the 26th because I'll be in Costa Rica, but I do return in time for the Mountain West Conference tournament, which you and I will both see. Spencer, I don't know what I want to say is with this, and I want to be fair to them. We jump all over, UNLV. We jump all over them for their how bad this team is, that Otzelberger doesn't seem to have them really playing together. Defensively, they still are a bad defensive team. They defend the perimeter really bad. They've done that. You can't gauge anything against a San Jose 16-point win, but they have shown flashes. They do have, in my opinion, an NBA player project in Bryce Hamilton, a guy that could find his way to the NBA. He does have that game and that skill set. It's just a matter of his motor, if he can get it running 24/7 to play at the highest level. Other than him, you've got some other good role players. David Jenkins has turned out to be an adequate point guard. I don't think Amari Hardy would have done any better than David Jenkins. As a matter of fact, I do think it's a little bit of an upgrade, as we're seeing Amari Hardy barely getting a cup of coffee on the floor in Oregon. You got other guys like Caleb Grill, who is a complete defensive liability, but when he gets hot from the perimeter, he can put up points in bunches. So that's a big thing for them as well. Spencer, the truth is, if they win the last 3 games, they end up over 500 in both the conference and overall. Now, we know those lousy games, St. Benedictine of Mesa or whatever, that they got a couple wins under their belt or they wouldn't have this record. But if this team wins out and goes into the Mountain West Conference tournament on a 4-game winning streak and ending over 500 in both, I don't want to say no matter what happens in the conference tournament, but say they win 1 game, they get a favorable matchup, and they win 1 game in the conference tournament. How would you say that is for TJ Otzelberger's second season, losing some of the players like Amari Hardy that people were a little bit worried about, me being one of them? Would you say that is, I'm not going to say a successful season, but an adequate season?
This is what I'll say I can actually say this for both UNLV Sports this season. I'm going to tell you why the season has been disappointing. Not because UNLV football was awful, they didn't get a win. Not because UNLV basketball is nowhere near where we're used to them being, historically speaking. I mean, this is embarrassing. They should be at the top. But this is a pandemic season, so we both said that for both of them. You had to take it with a grain of salt. But I will say what has been ultimately disappointing, and that is just the play on the field, the players. When we saw Charles come out after UNLV got blown out by, the game that we had went to, was it Montana State? When he comes out after the game and says and talks about how he's the best running back in the Mountain West, you're talking football. I'm comparing both of them together. So when you hear Charles come out and say something like that, Wyoming. That's right. That was a Wyoming game. When we went to the Air Force game for UNLV basketball, and they look lifeless. It was pretty depressing to look at them. I mean, no energy on the court. And we saw the first game against Montana State where they got eviscerated. So I think it's the attitude from the coaches. I think it's their lack of control over the locker room. College is supposed to be like the most fun time in your life. I mean, that's what they say. These kids don't look like they're having fun. It looks like they have their own agendas. It doesn't look like they're playing for themselves. So yes, is UNLV basketball going to finish over 500? Sure. But a bit of the fun of the season has just been completely taken out. And is it very difficult to have fun when you have no fans and stuff? Yes, but that's on the onus of the coach to try to make the best of the situation, to get these guys to rally behind each other. Very rarely do I see players dapping it up with each other on the free throw lines or talking in huddles. Sure, every once in a while, but those are like during actual timeouts. I want to see like lulls in the game where these guys get together and just have a conversation or just smile. When was the last time you saw a UNLV player smile? Not even during the second half of the Air Force game where they ended up taking over. I remember just watching them go through the motions. I mean, the first half, they lost in the first half. They were definitely just kind of moseying along. I want to see them enjoy the end. And if they have fun during the Mountain West tournament, I will say this has been a successful season for UNLV Running Rebels.
fun is one thing. I want to see them win a game in the tournament. I think because if they win out and win a game in the tournament, they ensure themselves above a 500 record. To me, I would say that's an adequate season. I've got a lot of friends that we go to the games with that'll probably argue with me up and down because of those lousy victories and what we've seen on the court, their lack of perimeter defense, their lack of organization, maybe their lack of running plays around Bryce Hamilton. All those things are things people are going to talk about. But if you end up over 500, and hey, Otzelberger is smart, scheduling some real patsies there for a minute to make up for a few games that were postponed or not even postponed, but were canceled. Yeah, I have to take that into consideration. But again, they're in the middle of the pack. They're ahead against most of the teams they should be. Nevada has been a bit of surprise, and they've won 4 games again lately. They're kind of on a roll. The biggest surprise in the conference, I think, this year was Boise State, who was supposed to be a middle-of-the-road team. It's an 18-4 team. And if they win out, the Mountain West is so bad. I think you still have to win the Mountain West Conference tournament this year to get into the big dance. But with all those power schools that are playing badly this year that might not get in, it might open up the team for it might open up a bid for a team like a Boise State if they went out losing the conference championship game and end up with like 22 or 23 victories overall. They could end up going and like if say a team like San Diego State ended up winning the Mountain West Conference tournament, which is who I think is going to win it. San Diego State again, one of the best defensive teams in the country. They are known for that. They were known for all those years with Steve Fisher being a great defensive team, and Brian Dutcher, his protege, came with him from the University of Michigan years ago, has picked up right where Steve Fisher left off, and I like this San Diego State team. Matter of fact, I think they have Sweet 16 capability based on what I've seen because they have such a good point guard. And when you've got a great point guard and you play really, really good defense, we know defense wins championships. There'll be no overall championship for San Diego State. But like I said, don't be shocked if a team like San Diego State makes a run in the tournament, if they win the Mountain West Conference tournament, of course, and get in to a Sweet 16 this year, where they haven't been able to do that in the past. And the only reason I say that, Spencer, is because this is a different year. This is a year where we are seeing teams like North Carolina, Michigan State, Kentucky that all might be left out of the NCAA tournament. And at this point in time, I believe they are on the outside looking in. That is pretty incredible, depending on how they do in their conference tournaments, of course. But all I can say is, wow, that has been probably the biggest surprise, is seeing some of the well-known powerhouses in the country not fare well. And that is the biggest surprise to me. But how will UNLV be? I'm going to say this. I think UNLV goes 2-1 down the stretch. I think they'll lose one of the 2 games to Fresno, even though it's at the Thomas and Mack. I think somehow Fresno will spoil maybe their senior night on their last day or something. But I think UNLV gets the tournament, and pending their matchup, I'm going to say they're going to win 1 game in the tournament this year. And if they do all that, they'll end up dead 500. And it would be a good finish for UNLV, for TJ Otzelberger. He's not going anywhere this year, but next year I think there's going to be a lot more expected of him. Bryce Hamilton, I believe, will be a senior next year. I don't think he'll try going pro. So with him as a senior-led team next year, you've got Mbake Zhang, I think, will also be a senior next year. This is going to be a senior-laden team with a couple of guys that transferred over. See what Otzelberger does this offseason. But next year, I think he is going to expect it to probably finish the regular season in the top 3, Spencer, and a guy that's going to probably have to make the semifinals in the Mountain West Conference. It'll be his 3rd year. If not, he will definitely be on the hot seat at the end of next season. That's my prediction. And as far as Arroyo goes, we'll talk about that at a different time. Still can't get that guy in the show, which is crazy. But as far as Arroyo goes, this year his debut was putrid. It's winless. It was a dumpster fire. It was of a season overall in college football this year, as we all know, with this pandemic and games canceled and postponed and what have you. But UNLV is happy that games got canceled. Trust me, because I don't think they would have won a game if teams didn't get canceled, and there would be more losses in that column. This is a team that I am praying next year with the Royal. It's a complete overhaul, and we see a different team. And he goes out there and finds some players, especially on the defensive side of the football. Or we're going to see next year, even though the pandemic might be over, you're still going to see an empty Allegiant Stadium. And it's one thing to see an empty Sam Boyd Stadium. It is a whole nother thing to see an empty stadium. We've been in there and seen the stadium empty at Allegiant. It is quiet and destitute and desolate, I should say. And it's going to be the same way. There'll be nobody in there other than maybe a few fans for 1 or 2 games out of the curiosity to see Allegiant Stadium that can't afford or get into Raiders games. They'll go, but that'll be it. I'm telling you, They have got to put a better product on the field, and immediately. We'll also talk about that a little later on. I do want to mention again, we are live at Kickers Gaming and Sports Bar, 931 North Las Vegas Boulevard, right at Washington, just down the road from Cashman Field and the old Neon Boneyard. They've got drink specials going on. It's Sunday night tonight. They've got their game night, which is awesome. Pictionary Air. It's going to go on from 8 to 10 o'clock right here with drink specials, raffle prizes. You can win gift cards, money off your bar tab, merchandise, a whole lot more. Come on down and check that out. And also, they are taking reservations right now for the March 6th UFC fight. Again, here at Kickers, they show all the pay-per-view fights, and they don't charge you to get in to see them. You just got to make reservations to be one of the people to get in to see it, and you get a chance to watch it in a great facility. Game sound is always on. And again, during football season, the Green Bay Packers Bar. Come on down and check this place out. We're here every Sunday, 8 to 9. Would love to see you. Get some free donuts and orange juice as well. Spencer, go ahead and hit it, man. It is time for Fact This.
Fact this. If you don't like the facts, take your ass back to bed. Fact this.
Fact. Last night in the Golden State-Charlotte game, Draymond Green became the only player in the last 20 years in the NBA to get ejected from a game in the final 10 seconds with that player's team leading by one score. This led to two made technical free throws by Terry Rozier, and then because the Hornets get possession, Rozier hit a game-winning shot at the buzzer, and Charlotte beat Golden State 102-100. Spencer, I am sorry. I love the passion. I mean, I understand Draymond Green got really upset about a timeout called by Charlotte that he didn't feel should have been awarded them, but you cannot hamstring your team like this. Golden State right now is the 8th seed. If it were to end today in the Western Conference, they are not nearly the team they were before, especially without Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant now being with the Brooklyn Nets. This cannot happen. And with Draymond Green, just so you know, he is third in technical fouls with 95, and he is second in ejections with 12 since he has come into the NBA in 2012, 2013, and is the only player with more than him is DeMarcus Cousins as far as being ejected from a game in that time frame. Spencer, this has got to stop. Draymond is an intelligent guy. He knows better than this. This hurts his team, and it really puts Steve Kerr in a bind because you can't really yell at the guy. He knows what he did. But, man, this has to stop.
Did you end up saying to Charles Barkley during his heyday to stop his antics? It's not going to happen. He just went in the postgame. I just talked about it on my show, talking about how player trades and all that kind of stuff, and always speaking up, and it's just who he is. I think he is a great basketball player. Well, this season he's terrible. They're actually wasting, in my opinion, Steph Curry's best season in his entire career. I think he's better than he was in his MVP days. That's how hard he's working to get his own shots, and he's scoring right around 30 points per game. But they need him to be more than the guy who yells, because when Klay Thompson's not on the court, Klay Thompson is a silent leader for this team. And he really kind of kept the team all together. And Draymond was the secret sauce, the X factor, the guy who put them over the top, very similar to the point guard for the Celtics, who I can't think of now. He played for Oklahoma. In any case, this team has a long way to go. Well, I think they're going to be terrible this year. I think Andrew Wiggins is extremely, well, I'm not even going to say overrated. Everyone doesn't like him anyways. He has a massive contract. They're still playing guys like Damian Lee, and you can go down their roster of guys who you've never heard of in your entire life. And the fact that, they're the Supermax deal, I'm going to end up talking about the Supermax deal, but it has never worked out one time in the NBA. First of all, it doesn't prevent players from moving to different teams. And now that Steph Curry has signed that deal and he's in the heart of it, where he's making the most amount of money, there is no cap space. The reason that Tom Brady has been so successful out of his career, or at least part of it, I'm not going to say the whole reason, is because he's taken pay cuts throughout this time. So when you get to the point where Steph Curry is making the $50 million part of his contract, not in the beginning because a lot of them are backloaded, then you're going to have these times where Steph Curry comes out with an illness or an injury, and now the team suddenly looks exposed. Without Steph Curry, I think the Warriors are the worst team in the league roster-wise. I think they have the least talented league outside of him. Steph Curry is so good, he makes that team a playoff team. And Draymond Green has to recognize that, how vulnerable this roster is. So when he starts making decisions like that, he also a couple weeks ago had a really boneheaded play where they were down 2 points and he had the ball in his hand and he chucks half court and there's still 8 seconds left on the clock. He's not all there. What I think he's trying to do is set himself up as the next TNT crew when Charles Barkley and Shaq retire. I think he just wants to take that spot. So a lot of the times when he does stupid stuff like this, it's because of that, because you have to be over the top personality. It's not about the team right now for him. It's about him, and it's really detrimental to this team.
I would agree 100%. Moving around the NBA, I think the Golden State Warriors, it's a team that without Klay Thompson, this is not a playoff team. With him, they're a playoff team. But the big three, Thompson, Green, and Curry, are not good enough anymore to win an NBA title, especially what they got going on in LA. It's amazing what's happening in Philadelphia this year, and I love it with a healthy Joel Embiid. To this point, I don't want to jinx the guy, but averaging over 30 points a game. You see why Philadelphia has never given up on him with his injury issues, because the guy's just that good. He's one of the best players. And how about Bradley Beal over in Washington, Spence? That guy is lighting it up. He's leading the NBA like 32.5 points a game. You talk about, can you imagine if the Lakers had him last year healthy with, when they went to, and now playing with Washington and doing so well there, that is a team to be reckoned with as well. But in the future, right now, I love Philadelphia. And the one team, I'm not surprised because we really saw them in the playoffs last year have the ability to rise up. But the Utah Jazz, best record in the NBA. Are you surprised at that?
The best record is probably a little surprising. I don't think that was expected as much. But I think with the Utah, what they need to focus on is not having the best record in the NBA. It's a large toll to lead the league. Milwaukee, the past 2 seasons, looked unstoppable in the regular season, and they got bounced in the second round. So if Utah Jazz end up with the best record, like the way that they're going now, okay, sure. But if they have to try to extend themselves to have the first seed in a year where seeding does not matter, just like last, they'll probably end up going to another bubble situation. Then they're going to be exhausted by the time. Now, what they also need to focus on is being flexible. We saw the Lakers last year in certain matchups. Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee played 0 minutes. I think during the Houston series, they didn't touch the court. And then the next series, they played a lot of minutes. It's going to be hard on Dan Schneider because, in my mind right now, he has the Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, everything else just kind of rolls around it. There might be times where Rudy Gobert can't play important minutes because of how large he is when they play small ball lineups. So we'll see, because they got a wake-up call a couple days ago. They played the LA Clippers, and they didn't get dominated, but they lost for sure. And a big reason that run started happening was because Rudy Gobert got a little exposed. He's not great in the pick and roll. We know how good of a defender he is in the paint. He's the best paint defender. But if you're playing perimeter-oriented teams like the Clippers, they're going to have to be willing to do some special things to move around. I like them. It sounds weird to be so down on the best team in the NBA right now, but still, I think you have to take it with a grain of salt before we start calling them finals favorites or anything like that, or even the ability to take out the Clippers or the Lakers. Both of the teams, I think they're still behind.
I would agree with that assessment really well. I think that I don't want to call Utah a house of cards, but I agree they're going to expend a lot of energy. And you're right, home. I mean, you could finish with the ace seed now and be okay because there's no fans behind you. The home court advantage in the NBA is to me the biggest advantage of all 4 of the sports because the fans are literally on the court. So when you get home court, I remember with the Pistons runs and you would be at the Palace. I mean, literally, it's like being Uncle Fester. Stick a light bulb in your mouth. Those places go crazy. And so it's not as much of an advantage as being the home court. You just get to wear a white jersey that day. That's about the only difference because they'll probably do it in the bubble again. And, the real quickly, because we got to run out of time with the NBA, but the Southeast Division, man, in the Eastern Conference drives me nuts. It reminds me of the Eastern Division in the NFC with you've got the Charlotte Hornets, who are a really fun team to watch, but they're 1 game under 500 and they're leading the division. I don't like teams under 500 winning their division and getting in the postseason. And, but again, I want to see this division. You look at the start to finish. I thought it would be better than it is. With Washington, Orlando, Atlanta, Miami, and of course Charlotte leading the division. But not Miami, the defending Eastern Conference champions, and they're an under 500 team, not looking nearly not even close to what they look like in the postseason last year. Those things are a little bit bothersome to me. I don't like under 500 teams leading their division. It's not even close in any other division except for that one, as far as the number one team being over 500. So that's pretty cool right there. Cool in the respect that you've got a bad division again, that I just don't like seeing it. NBA this year, just to say it, overall, when it's all said and done and the smoke clears, Spencer, and everyone's healthy, I just still can't see anyone taking down the Los Angeles Lakers in a 7-game series. I don't see it happening still. Again, this year, I think LeBron still, as we see, has more than enough in the tank. When Anthony Davis and him are on the court together, Kyle Kuzma plays his best game. This is a very, very good basketball team, and I see them defending again when it's all said and done. Again, if everyone stays healthy, although you might have a team like a Philadelphia in the East, or the Clippers, that are rival in the West, that might be able to give them some trouble. But again, I think the Lakers are probably the best team in the league, and I'm going to stick with that. Before I know, I want to talk more about the NBA, and of course we will as time rolls on. But I do want to just get into and mention a little bit the Australian Open. Novak Djokovic, I mean, the Joker is just unbelievable. Do you know, Spencer, he has never lost in the finals of the Australian Open, won his 9th Australian Open yesterday. Wasn't even really that great of matchup against Medvedev. I always mess up his name. I think it's Medvedev is the way you pronounce it, of Russia. He was the 4th seed. Wasn't even really a match. I mean, maybe the first set was, and then it got bad again. But really, to me, the whole thing with the Australian Open, I want to give Joker all the credit in the world. He played tremendously. But all I know is that semifinals matchup was so incredibly cool when the Joker played that what's his face? I think it was Karatsev. Guy was like ranked 114th in the world, never even made it to like the quarterfinals of any major before, and gets to play Djokovic in the semifinals. He did get a break in the quarterfinals playing against a guy who was injured, but it's really cool when you see this is like a 15 seed or a 16 seed winning in the NCAA tournament. This guy was nobody. I mean, he has no sponsors. He's got his own bag of rackets, no sponsor's name on him, and yet he makes it to the semifinals of the Australian Open, which made it as exciting for me as anything. But you got to give the Joker all kinds of credit. 18 Grand Slams now, Spencer. He has won at least one singles title in 16 straight years, dating back to 2006. And I wonder with Joker now, he's 42-0 as an Australian, Open as a number 1 seed. He's never lost when he's been the number 1 seed at the Australian Open. As I said, never lost a finals match. Won yesterday 7-6 and then 6-2, 6-2 to get there. But I look at all-time greats, and I think, right now we're in an era where Roger Federer, people might say he is the all-time greatest. Joker's coming up on him. But, in all sports, they say, God, if you could have the greatest players play for the same team or something, but in an individual sport like tennis, it's a really neat concept to think, who would be the greatest of all time? When you look back at Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe, Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi, how would those guys fare against Roger Federer in his prime? I mean, I think Pete Sampras could play Roger Federer and maybe beat him. I just don't know, and it's something we'll never know, but it really makes for some interesting conversation, because when Pete Sampras was dominating, people forgot all about him. He was a dominating tennis player. Could he beat Roger Federer? And who knows? Nadal, Joker. I just don't know. And I was thinking about it last night. Like, how cool would that be if they could, I'm sure they've done simulations on that, but I would really like to see who the computer thinks is the greatest of all time. Throw out the records, because Federer would be based on his age and longevity and what he's done. But is he really the greatest of all time? If he were to play Pete Sampras, who would win that match? And I'm curious to know that.
Yeah, it's actually pretty unique, because we want to talk about historic QB battles, and you can go down the list like Peyton Manning or Tom Brady. You can't, at the end of the day, they don't play each other. Actually, they're playing against defenses. So it's just weird to compare the two of them together. And it's such a team-oriented sport. But in tennis, there's no one in between. It's you and the tennis racket and that tennis ball around the court. So really, you can say, I think you could arguably debate who the greatest tennis player of all time is. I don't think you'll ever be able to do that for any sport other than golf. Obviously, that would be another one. Who's the greatest golfer of all time? But even with golf, it's so drastically different. Like, every golf course is unique. So I guess you could argue who's be the best golfer for one specific course or something like that.
Even in golf, Spencer, think you would, if it came down to it, and you had one player or the other, you would take like Nicholas or Woods and say, well, it's one of those two. In tennis, I don't know. I really don't know who I would say is the greatest player or who would win, because injuries play a factor in all those sports. Like you're talking about the prime, like the one guy in football, Bo Jackson might have been the greatest running back that's ever lived. We'll never know. I mean, he didn't get to play long enough, but when he played, he was one of the most electrifying and fun players to watch. Listen, I know we got to run. I appreciate Spencer now. Spencer will be sitting in, spending some time with me, with Caleb out. We always appreciate Kicker Sport Gaming and Sports Bar, 931 North Las Vegas Boulevard. We're here every Sunday, same time, 8 to 9. Come on down and join us for free donuts and orange juice down the road. And of course, I'm Brian Feldman, back in the studio, man in the wheels of steel. We have Dino Damon Cotton taking care of everything for us. We're going to exit stage left. Next week, Spencer will be here. I won't, but I'm going to try to join the show from Costa Rica because we can do that now. So, right, I'll be able to do that. So pretty cool. So you'll probably still see me next week. We're looking forward to it. Once again, tonight at Kickers, they have their gaming night, and they are running at from 8 to 10 tonight. It is Pictionary Air. Chance for you with all kinds of prizes. Come on down. We're out. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.